Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Black Creek Oyster Beach Services Committee meeting for Monday, August 11th, 2025. I see we have a small number of people in the gallery today, but I think they know the drill, so I'm not going to go through all the housekeeping about where the washrooms are, where the muster points are. I'm going to plow right into this extensive and very detailed meeting. First of all, I'd like to recognize the fact that we're doing our business today on the unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. First item of business, we have, by the way, I should mention, we have Director Rice from Area D online today. So I'm going to entertain a motion to receive the resolution status report.
Move receipt.
And I'll second that. Is there any discussion on the status report?
No.
Seeing none, call for a vote on that. Anybody opposed to receipt?
No.
Seeing none, that carries. Now, the reason we're all here is the Wetutko Legislative Process and Agreement, a report from August 7th regarding the agreement for the transfer of assets from Wetutko Enterprises Limited to the Black Creek Oyster Bay Water Local Service Area. And there's a report here for receipt.
Move receipt.
And I'll second that, and we'll turn it over to the CAO for introductions.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Kayla Lemert, our water wastewater analyst, will be introducing the staff report and supported, I'm sure, by Chris Leroux, Senior Manager of Water Wastewater Services. So, Kaylee, over to you.
One moment, please. We have a few technical difficulties. Do not adjust your set.
Okay.
If you do, we'll be forced to play elevator music.
Hold it first.
Kaylee's just dying to say something, but we won't let him. Well, that's unusual. To err is human. To really screw things up requires a computer.
Maybe turn the mic off just for a second. Thanks.
We're going to invite Keely up to the big boys table.
Good morning. Thank you through the CEO to the chair and director. Can everyone hear me? Nice.
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
Nice. This staff report is to follow up on the report from earlier March on the feasibility and connection costs transferring residents from the Watugo water system to the BCOB water local service area. The report provides an update on the legislative process and timeline, as well as brings forward a proposed agreement for the transfer of assets should the electoral assent be successful. To best enable paying for the cost of connection to the BCOB water service, staff proposed the creation of a new service which would cover the Watugo properties shown in Appendix B. As discussed in the previous report, residents would pay into the service through a loan authorization bylaw over a 10-year period to fund the improvements, capital improvement cost charges, and resolve the reserve and equity difference between the services. Once the physical improvements are made, BCOB service establishment bylaw would need to be amended to add the properties into the BCOB water service. Elector approval is required for both service establishment and loan authorization. Staff proposed to seek elector approval by a petition process given the small size of the service area. Both petitions would need to be addressed in one form to minimize public confusion. A successful process would require both petitions to be signed by the owners of 50% of the properties defined in the service area, and that represent 50% of the net taxable value of all land and improvements within the proposed service area. Staff have been also working with legal counsel to develop an agreement that addresses all the key financial, regulatory, and operational considerations associated with the transfer of the assets. Staff met with the owner of Watugo last week to finalize the document, which is now appended to this staff report and is supported by staff and the owners. Staff recognize it has been some time since we engaged with Watugo residents and are proposing a two-stage engagement to ensure that we can respond and finalize material leading up to the petition. The following timeline is proposed for public engagement relating to the assent process and service amalgamation. In the coming days, staff will mail out an introductory letter to residents and update the Watugo project page on the CVRD website. A public open house is tentatively scheduled at the Oyster River Fire Hall on September 18th from 5 to 7 p.m. In early October, staff will mail out a second letter and initiate the petition process. This process would run for approximately 1 month, finishing in late October. In November, December, staff would report out on the outcome of the petition. If the petition is successful, the borrowing service would be established in early 26. The system modifications would be expected to be completed by the fall of 26, and the BCOB would formally extended over the Watugo properties in January 2027. That's it for me. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Director Rice, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
That makes it easy. I have a few. This has been a long time in the making, I think about 5 years now. It's been creeping forward. I guess legislatively, we have to go through some kind of a public assent process. My fear is that we can't even get 23% of the population out to vote in a local election. And we're asking for 50% plus to come out and vote in this conversion process. So how are we going to beat the bushes here? How are we going to, people are already suffering from information overload up the yin yang. You see even the flyers in the newspapers, they take the newspapers and leave the flyers inside the box. So I'm just wondering, do we have any secret weapon? Because not everybody's online, believe it or not, especially when you take a look at the demographics up there where about 62% of the people are over 60 years old. So I'm just wondering if we have a surefire engagement process. I do realize that that under this is going to be under the old DCCs or CCCs. So at the old rate, and that should be a bit of an incentive because we're looking at increasing our fees for our CCCs and DCCs. So if somebody can comment on that.
Yeah, or so I can speak to the CICC. That I can confirm that is the case. That people, this is a window of time where they're considered to be in stream. So it's certainly makes. I mean, all communication will be very clear in terms of what the cost impact would be, and I think this, from the previous staff report, the very clear tables showing what the cost differences are. there'd be multiple mail outs to really make sure that people are, and I'm sure the owner of Patuco is also kind of knows a lot of these people, and it is a small service area after all. To make sure that the word kind of gets out and people are part of that.
I would just echo what Kaylee has to say in that, yeah, the couple of direct mail outs are an important connection point, as is working with the owner of Watuco to make sure that the information is widely known. When we look to petition processes, it's always when there's a small population and a much easier to engage with population than larger service area, larger proposals that we would consider for an AAP. It's always a much larger geographic area. So because this is a small geographic area, because we have a direct connection with the owner of Watuco, we feel that we'll be able to get that information out in a sufficient way. And then be able to continue providing information and answering questions as the month or so goes along in the fall during the petition process.
Thanks very much, although I don't share your optimism. This may be a candidate for actually canvassing, going around door to door, which I would suggest would be another option, going direct to the door, because you can almost walk it. You know, it's not like we're talking about a huge geographic area we have to cover. So I think that should be a consideration as well for the communication department. I'd be willing to go hand in hand with Jay Ottoson if you door to door and try to explain to the people. There's the map there, so you sort of explain to the people what is at stake here, you know, and the advantages to taking the offer at this point in time, due to the fact that it's reduced cost before the new bylaws kick in. You sure have anything to add there, Director Rice?
Well, I was just going to say that, again, if this was something that I was involved with directly, I would be knocking on doors.
Thanks for that. So do we need a motion to that effect, or would that be under advisement of staff?
I think we can take that under advisement. It's a good suggestion, and you're right. The geographic area is relatively small, so I think the engagement part of it, the resolutions or the recommendations here cover off the formal requirements, and then the door-to-door canvassing is something that can be entertained as we go into the fall to understand what sort of outreach has been happening and how much knowledge there is in community.
Yes, and that'd be probably at zero cost to the corporation too, because I think the electoral area director and would be taking it upon himself to do that, just to assure that everybody's familiar. Okay, so any other questions of Caleb or staff at this point? So we are on receipt. So I'm going to call the question on receipt. Anybody opposed?
Nope.
That carries. Now we have a series of 2 recommendations. Should I move them one at a time, Mr. CAO? I'll move recommendation number 1 if I get a seconder.
I'll second that.
Okay. So the Watuco Asset Transfer Agreement between Comox Valley Regional District and Watuco Enterprises is a form substantially consistent with Appendix A to the staff report dated August 7th to be approved. So to approve it, any objection?
Nope.
That carries. And if you want to move number 2, Director?
I'll move number 2, if you can just scroll the screen down a bit for me. I'll move option 2, that the staff proceed with the petition process for those property owners within electoral area C, Puntledge, Black Creek, that fall within the area proposed to join the Black Creek Oyster Bay Water Service as outlined in Appendix B to the staff report dated August 7th, 2025. And further, that if the petitions are sufficient and valid pursuant to the Local Government Act and the Regional District Establishing Bylaw Approval Exemption Regulation, staff be directed to bring forward the service establishing bylaw for the purpose of providing capital financing for the system modifications and connection to the Black Creek Oyster Bay system, loan authorization bylaw for borrowing of necessary funding, an amendment to bylaw number 1557 being the Black Creek and Oyster Bay Water Local Service Area Conversion, and establishment bylaw number 1557, 1993, to add the properties to the Black Creek Oyster Bay Water Service. And finally, that subject to sufficient and valid petitioning being received, the directors for electoral area C and Strathcona Regional District Area D being the service participants consent to the amendment of bylaw number 1557 being the Black Creek and Oyster Bay Water Service Area Conversion and Establishment bylaw number 1557, 1993 in writing.
And I'll second that. Seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on that one. Anybody opposed?
No.
That carries. Thank you very much, everyone, for all the work that's gone into this over the years, the ups and downs and twists and turns. We finally get to the appropriate outcome. Last but not least, a water restriction dashboard for receipt.
Move receipt.
We speaking to this at all? You have to come up here.
Chris LaRose is our Senior Manager of Water Wastewater Services, and Chris will join one of the microphones here at the front of the table to update on the dashboard.
Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, James, and through the chair, good morning, everyone. Yeah, so the latest issue of the water restrictions dashboard is on the agenda. It includes updated numbers for all of our water service areas, including the Black Creek Oyster Bay water system. As you'll see from the numbers, the river well is showing a decrease, a continued decrease, as is normal for this time of year, just reflecting decreased flows down the Oyster River. Consumption, interesting to note that, yeah, so as with the automatic shift to stage 2 on July 1st, explain that decrease in total consumption over the period. Steps down, both showing on total consumption as well as the peak day. Peak day is up. And we've made a note actually on the bottom here, as we noted last time, that the numbers are very high for this service area. So we strongly suspect a leak, and our water operators have been methodically working through the system trying to isolate where that might be. But if you look at the consumption and peak day data for BCOB in comparison to Royston and Union Bay, Royston being the most direct comparison because they're a similar size in terms of the number of connections, we see just a dramatically higher peak day consumption. Yeah, so that we are very intent to find the source of that leak, and happy that it's occurring in BCOB rather than one of the water systems where we pay a bulk water rate for consumption, although that isn't impacting our efforts to resolve. But it doesn't. The increased consumption does not have a direct relationship to cost for the service, which is fortunate versus Royston or Comox Valley water system, where we pay a bulk water rate for the water that's being consumed. As highlighted at the last meeting, we now have a second page that summarizes or illustrates the consumption with respect in comparison to previous years, and that also highlights that this year is very unusual for BCOB. So I hope to have news for you at the next meeting about what the source of that increased consumption is.
So I guess what you do is compare the master meter with the different zones. Is that how you narrow it down?
Yeah, we have a master meter, but we don't have zone meters in this service area. So that does make it more complicated. So we are looking at some correlator technology. So these devices that get installed temporarily at hydrants, and then we can listen for leaks between, so a correlator at hydrant and then another one down the road, and we kind of leapfrog our way through the system, listening for the acoustic signature of leaks. So that's what we'll be looking to implement here very shortly.
So a shout out to all the Black Creek Oyster Bay water users. If you suddenly notice a wet spot in front of your house and the lawn, phone Chris.
Yeah, we definitely want to hear about that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we're on receipt. We did move receipt, did we not? Okay, so on receipt, anybody opposed to receipt of the water restriction dashboard?
No.
That carries. That brings us to termination. Director, you want to move termination?
Move
But there's-
termination.
Thanks very much. I'll second that. And thanks everyone for tuning in. And we're going to move on to Electoral Area Services Committee at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.